before we get into this, we have a poll that's already live on our Zoom link. And the question that you have to ask you, and I'm going to be asking also my guests the same, that how do you make important decisions in your business? How do you make important decisions in your business? And there's quite a number of options there. Is it prayer and fasting? We Africans are more normal and important decisions. Is it through advice, through mentors? So Ken, how do you make your decisions?
Okay. One thing that I used to make decisions is I try and see what is at hand to be made decision more fast. Because I just don't wake up and say, I've made a decision.
From the list from a poll.
Yes. Okay, let me give a practical example.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something to do with maybe marketing. Because in business there are many phases. So you make decisions based on all those phases. So, for example, marketing. I don't want to change my strategy in marketing because there's something that is not working there. So I'll use majorly the customer feedback on my end.
Interesting.
Maybe a customer says, hey, you should have put expiry date on this product. Or maybe the expiry date, if I put my product in the fridge. So I use that information to make a decision. Mostly it's customer centric. They need my decision.
And Chris, from all the different particular options.
I think BrandSpark is the stage. Okay, so for me, I would say is I like reference. I refer to people who are in the field and are well informed in that sector. So I find value in their experience and sharing what they have, they can offer and the advice they can give. Then, as I mentioned, one of the strengths that I've realized is referring to those who have strength and knowledge in strategy planning. For business, I think as you grow is where you start appreciating strategies. When you're starting, you're grappling with so many things, so it becomes very difficult to know how to make your decisions. So you go to all directions, including the prayers. So because they become the first when you're starting.
It's your strength and your comfort.
Yes.
Interesting, Mr. Michael.
How do I make decisions? I first appreciate what the decision that needs to be made is, and then use data. And last and not least, consult. But not to forget that you need to pray and fast.
This prayer and fasting is very important.
We can never ignore it. We can't run away from it.
And to the experts.
Well, just a comment on what Michael has said. I'm surprised prayer and fasting features in a financial. I thought they are absolutely data-driven. So for me, it's a combination of experience, intuition, and data. That's how I make my decisions. So, but there's nothing wrong with praying. It probably helps to focus the decision making better.
The divine intervention.
Yes.
It's a very important decision that you've made to be here with us and just choosing to be part of this particular conversation that you're going to be having today. And as I told you, you're going to be launching a strategy powers report today, courtesy of WYLDE International. So WYLDE International, I'm just going to give us a small profile and a small brief about it before Mr. Kirian, the director in charge of WYLDE International, gets to share more about what exactly WYLDE International is. And then we're going to get into this particular report. So WYLDE International offers leadership in the entrepreneurship sector in Africa, and they're committed into this particular ecosystem. But more than that, they hold a very interesting vision that I actually saw it as like, wow. And the vision is that to see Africa reach a level of global influence. So with our prayer and fasting and all the decisions that we made, the whole objective by WYLDE International is to see us reach a global influence. And also WYLDE International, one of the core things that they do is that they develop knowledge tools and processes that are out to transform entrepreneurship in Africa. Quite an interesting profile by WYLDE International. But that's all I can actually say. The first person should just break down what exactly WYLDE International is and what exactly this particular report that you're going to be addressing today is all about. Is Mr. Kirinya. I wish you had people here with the clapping. But when we're doing all these Zoom things, last much to church and now. So Mr. Kirinya.
Very well. I think you've done about 90% of the work money just to the 10%. Pretty much, WYLDE International is a management consulting firm. We've been at it for over 10 years, and our target market really is just small and medium enterprises. So, and our core product is strategy. So one of the things that that we think about when it comes to strategy is how are you going to make decisions that will influence how you're going to work tomorrow, basically. So strategy is pretty much just making decisions today or choices today that will affect how you progress tomorrow. So that's pretty much the area of pretty much a summary about WYLDE International. So anything else? Allow me just to for clients, really. So what we find out from the survey, and maybe just allow me to just share just two very quick things about the parameters of the study. Number one, one of the big parameters of the study, of course, was the age of the business. Does it affect whether SMEs, SME owners, small business owners like Grace and Ken over here? Does the age of the business affect whether they engage in strategic planning? That's one. Number two, there's a turnover of business, annual turnover of business. Does the annual turnover of business play a role pretty much in deciding whether to engage in strategic planning or not? So, over to you.
Interesting. And one of the core things that you actually mentioned from the onset was the element of data-driven decision making. And maybe you're in the management consultancy business, and we have it as entrepreneurs who are actually on the field. Maybe I can just start with you, Grace. Do you make data-driven decisions? You're already spoken about prayer and fasting. Prayer and fasting is divine intervention, but with data that's Mungu anafanya kazi, but on ground, in the manufacturing industry that you're in, how do you make data-driven decisions?
I would say initially that is not how we were doing, and now we are doing the much needed data-driven decision making, and this has really helped us. I must say that we just finished like. That we have to strategize the offering, how we've been doing it, how we've been reaching our market. And so to do all this, we needed to also go back to the market and see what is the information that is out there regarding the access to the market. Today, most of the people are buying online because you also don't want to expose yourself. And also for certain ages, they have also really been discouraged from going out. So, and that is one large market that we are because we make executive high-class bags and accessories. So that means this executive who is supposed to be going to the office with that bag, now they are home, they're not using the bag. So what do? You make the mask. Yes. I mean, you take care, you make sure that their home is well done. Yeah. So you make some nice, cozy bin bags that they can utilize. So meaning that it influences, including your product, what you're offering to the market and how you're doing it and how you deliver to the market. So that whole circle has changed because of different things. So that's one thing I would just give an example, and that we are heavily dependent on what is out there, the information that is provided on what are the targets right now. Like I'll go to ITC to look at what is the leading products that people are looking for now. And I'll decide it's the bin bag.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And you can, in terms at Tayari Foods, what are some of the data that you actually use to make your decisions in your day-to-day? Maybe just in brief.
One of the major data that we actually before I knew WYLDE, and be honest, I wasn't making data-driven decisions. Up until when we came here for a training and we met the team, and I became more curious. And because majorly my focus market was B2B. But now, and most of my clients being hotel, restaurants, and catering companies, they were hit hard with the COVID. And now the strategy had changed, and we had to focus to the B2C, same to the B2B. Well, once I began going to the B2C, data became key. On the website, on our website, on the social media pages, when you go to the analytics, you tend to see, oh, when I sell my product in, let's say, for example, in Chilimani area, there are women aged between 23 to 35 who are interested in this product. And most of them, I realize, were young mothers. Because when a young mother, you're from giving birth, it becomes tedious. Oh, how will I get my groceries? How will I get my product? So I realized young mothers were really interested.
So data came into
Data came, and I knew, oh, young mothers love this product because it makes their cooking easier.
Interesting. So data was key. Interesting.
So data was key to know my target market. Another aspect was you get women maybe aged above 50 and above. You get maybe they are living alone, or maybe they're not into preparing so much food, and our food is tired. It's ready.
Interesting.
So that market was interested. Then also come to the millennials. Then you want some more of a micro generation. You want something ready. So that target group, we knew which product to tailor. But how do I know that if it were not for data and also targeting them? So to me, data really opened our eyes as a company to focus, to know what product to tailor make, as you were saying, for each segment.
Interesting. And Michael, you have an extensive industry in the banking industry, and we know that the banking industry per se was heated, and also in the lending business right now. What has changed in terms of the data that you look at before even giving someone loans?
What is the data we're looking at? First, you look at where the industry is. Where has the industry been playing? COVID came and changed data to a good extent, because what was there before has completely changed. And what is important today is to understand where is the particular industry of the person who is looking for funding. Understand the market today. Fine, it's good to know where it was before and how it was behaving. But we also today are being forced to look at it and say, where is it today? How is it behaving? And how has the competition responded to what has happened, especially when COVID hit the globe?
Interesting. And Mr. Kirinya, one of the core things about the Strategy Pulse report is the question, what exactly is strategy? What are some of the findings? What do people think about what strategy is?
Oh, incredible. There are so many perceptions about strategy. And just allow me to backtrack a bit. In terms of the report, we interviewed about 126 SMEs across SMEs. Most of them actually have turnovers of them. Yes. And then most of the SMEs that responded are below 5 years in age. So again, interesting. Move on to your question specifically. One of the interesting things that we found out in terms of strategy is that 55% of our respondents believe that strategy is about planning and implementation. Which is pretty much a very large percentage. Then 18% believe strategy is action. Now, the interesting thing is that the businesses that are older in operation tend to think about strategy in terms of planning and execution. So that's very interesting. And I don't know what Ken would have to say about that.
Interesting. Ken, how long have you been in business?
5 years.
5 years. So you fall under that particular bracket between 1 to 5. So you're at the edge of that, because you just say most businesses die between the first 5 years. You're at the edge of not transitioning into existence for life. But in terms of your perception of strategy, what exactly is it what exactly have you perceived strategy initially, and how exactly do you perceive strategy now?
To be honest, initially, I used to see strategy as that beautiful document that is there saying this is our company strategy. When you go to big companies, you get a table like this, you find our strategy.
The booklets. The 5-year strategy.
But I was wondering, what are the don'ts doing with all this research? And as you're saying, to me now, it changed my perception. I realized strategy to me is a living document. You put it into action. And just like they say in Christianity, the Bible is a living document. So to me, strategy is the same in the living times. Because you cannot stick to a strategy of 201 and you're in 2021. You need to be revising it as the market evolves. So to me, I view it more of an action-oriented way, the way you need to direct your business towards.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And Grace, you have an extensive experience in business. And I'm sure, as you mentioned earlier on, when you started out, strategy was not a big thing for you. But how exactly has it been for you? What did you perceive strategy as you started out? And how exactly what's the importance of strategy right now in your day-to-day running of your business?
I think first thing is strategy was something I would say it looked very complicated. It was not and the whole process of making it and everything sounded so far away from my small space that time. And also the fact that they asked for too much details, which I didn't have. See, when you start a strategy, you need to have information about your market, very good understanding about your products. But when you're starting, you're grappling with which product will fit in very well in the market. So as you go on, you start appreciating that you can't do this and you can't grow without a strategy. First, because a strategy also is what your staff will absorb and carry your vision. If they don't understand where you're going, then you can be sure you are scattered, even in the staff. And that is, by the time I made the decision to start doing my first strategy, we were all scattered. We were all going different directions. But when they how you operate two or alone.
Yes.
So the strategy is you and yourself and everything. But as you grow, you start having all these other people who are feeding into the strategy. So the growth of the company actually makes it more practical for you to ensure that you have a strategy.
Interesting. Quite interesting insights actually there from Watokwa ground. but when you went to the ground, Mr. Kirinya, what is the overview like? What's it called? How many SME owners have strategy from the ones that you actually got into, what's it called, get data from in terms of particular report?
Right. Interesting question. Out of the 126 that we interviewed, only about 76 responded that they had strategic plans. It's like 60, maybe 62% of them. And that's interesting for us. And the thing about having strategic plans is it's really doesn't depend on turnover, and it also doesn't depend on age of business. But there's a slight nuance there. The businesses that are like over 100 million, all of them actually reported that they have strategies.
So
Yes.
you're not Tessa.
So please take note of that as a financial. But generally speaking, about even the businesses that are even a year, less than 2 years old, even 74% of them reported that they have strategies. Yes, about 74%, but it goes higher with revenues. And now in terms of the age of business, the nuance is even more because the average is about 80-something% saying we have a strategy, and the minority say they don't have a strategy. This thing interesting is they have nuanced understanding of what strategy is all about. Yes. But anyway, I think Mike has a point to make about strategy.
It's interesting you say that because every time somebody comes looking for funding, the most critical thing that we always want to see is a strategy. However, what we've discovered is that a lot of people have strategies which they have not documented. Like I think Grace alluded to, it's all in your head. It's all in your head. But the risk that then now you realize is that when it's all in your head as the vision bearer, unless you execute it, no one else will ever help you execute it. And therefore, what we do is that as financials, we help people make sure that they document their strategy. So you might walk in without a strategy, but if you take the risk and document it, and I'm one of those people who believe that a strategy document should not be a booklet. If you can fit it on one single page, I think you've done it. You've aced it, because that way you're able to ask yourself the most critical questions, and it's on your face at any given point. You can actually put it at the corner of your desk, and every day as you do your stuff, you're able to sit and say, oh, that needs to be addressed, or this needs to be addressed. So that has been one of the most interesting things. And as financials, one of the things, especially at business partners, we do is if you don't actually have a written strategy, we actually challenge you to document it. And by you doing that, we see a lot of clarity coming out of the business itself, and we see a lot of traction happening there.
That's very interesting. Ken, you defined earlier on the strategy document being like a living book. You defined it as a Bible. You know the Bible has never been revised, but a strategy needs to be revised. How often do you revise your strategy?
Quarterly,
Yeah.
to be honest, on a quarterly basis, because a strategy being the fact that it's affecting different aspects of the business. So to me, I find it every quarter, I'll be able to see how is this doing, what do I need to change, what do I need to tweak. So to me,
Every quarterly you revise. Interesting. And to you, Grace?
I think we have the kind of strategy we have now is the bigger picture of the entire business.
Yeah.
So the other things evolve, like when you're doing your work plans and you're developing what you want to do and what you want to achieve, and the implementation part, that is reviewed as often as possible. But the overall document is there that guides everyone. So I have a point of reference anytime. And then he said about finances, when we wanted to look for money,
Just revised.
that is when you had to also revise.
It's like when exams are almost coming. That's when you revise.
You revise and read very well. So at that point, we were able to look at our strategy more intensively, because also they pose questions that maybe you haven't looked into very well, and also make you think through about your planning, especially the budgeting and finance part is one area that most of us don't want to touch, because it's quite intensive. And when you see those numbers, there are so many, and sometimes when you do yourself, they multiply. So fast.
So, Kirunya, one of the things that you looked at in the report is how often do entrepreneurs revise their particular strategy?
Very well.
They have given their testimonies. Tell us the truth.
Very well. It's an interesting statistic right there, because those who responded yes, they have a strategic plan. About 60-something%, about 65% say that they conduct their strategy reviews every 3 months, so to speak. It's a regular thing. And then again, nuanced. Does the age of business matter? Does the turnover matter? So in terms of age, very big driver in terms of strategy reviews. But when it comes to turnovers, and in particular for those who have strategic plans, again, those who are like 100 million in turnover and maybe above 5 million in turnover per year, they do their strategy reviews every so often. So that's a nuance that is very, very important. So one could be tempted to think, is there a correlation between good turnovers and proper strategy and proper strategy review? Again, I'm sure Mike has something to say about that. What's your experience?
No, very interesting that you bring that up. I think the honest truth is that most businesses say they review their turnover, they review their strategy. In reality, I think they're too busy to review their turnover. They're busy trying to make the money than review their turnover, their strategy. They actually come back to review their strategy when they notice that their turnover is dropping. When the turnover is okay and is growing at the expected rate that they had projected. So if I had projected that by the end of this quarter, I will have hit 5 million a month. If I am at 5 million a month, the probability of me reviewing my strategy is very remote. And that's what we see. However, if I hit 3 million when I had targeted 5 million, the probability of me going to review my strategy is very high. Why? Because there's a problem. But when there's no problem, I think like the African says, why fix what is not broken?
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I think Grace alluded to that. So it's a living document only when something breaks. If nothing has broken, it's not a living document per se. However, it's very interesting that when you look at it, 3-4 years ago, organizations had 5-year strategies. Today, if you have a 2-year strategy, you're in trouble. Because the environment is just changing too fast. It's to last year in March, we thought COVID was going to be here for 3 months? And we had all predicted, everyone thought 3 months, we are done with this animal and we move on with our lives.
The animal is with us.
The animal is still with us a year plus, and it's getting worse. You know, yesterday they said the COVID is spiking in Nairobi, and you wake up and you think, okay, fine. Last week, that's not what they told us. Yesterday, they told us it's spiking in Nairobi. What does then that mean to my business? You have to change. You have to think immediately and ask yourself, so what does that mean? So because of that now, with the environment, with the pandemic and everything happening, things changing too fast, we're being forced to review our strategies much more frequently than we used to do.
Interesting. And as Mr. Green, you're just taking us through in terms of the basis of this particular report, you're looking at the turnover and also you're looking at the years in business.
Yes.
So in one of this particular analysis in terms of that particular report, how exactly does that reflect in terms of the daily decision making and the strategy development? How exactly, what did you find out?
Okay, very well. Interesting question. One of the things that we found out is in terms of daily decision making. Remember, we're narrowing down this time on those who already have strategic plans. Is that in terms of businesses that are between 5 and 10 years of age, the strategy, their existing strategy affects their day-to-day decision making 69% of the time, which is very, very interesting, isn't it? And in terms of turnover, 67% of high revenue businesses tend to rely a great deal on their business strategic plans for their day-to-day decision making. So in a sense, we just say only about 30-35% of the people of SMEs that have business plans don't apply that on a day-to-day basis. But the rest pretty much do, especially if they're in high growth and if they're older businesses, so to speak. My guess around that is that the older you are, the wiser you become.
And maybe the question for you, Karina, is what is it that we can do to help businesses review their strategies more often?
Okay, very well.
That's a very interesting question. You're going to touch on that. But one of the things that you touched on earlier, Mr. Michael, and I'm going to address this to Ken and Grace, is the focus areas of your strategy. One of the things is, Mr. Michael just addressed and brought into picture and perspective is that people only review their strategy once the turnover does not reflect what they had planned for. Is it true on ground?
Yes, I'll say it's 50.
What's the reality for you?
The reality for me is ever since March 2020, the COVID came, I became more curious on how will I adjust, how will I survive. I was focusing on B2B. Now they are not there anymore. How will I strategize? So it became
revenue? Is it the business growth? What exactly are you focusing on? What's the main focus?
My main focus was business growth, and specifically with the marketing aspect of it. Because now I have to adopt the changes that are coming. So to me, my main focus was business growth, specifically market. Interesting.
And for you, Grace, you say that you're, targeting the luxury bags. Guys were going to the office. March, everybody went home. You had to change a lot. What exactly? Yes. So just take me through some of the focus areas, especially when you're going about reviewing a particular strategy.
Okay, for us, key is our product. the product that we offer. For me, that is the backbone of our business. And also the fact that we should also make sure we are sustaining our financial situation at its best. Our turnovers should not go down. We only want to go up. I think immediately you see going down, the red flags are all red.
Review.
Review. And for me, that goes back to, you see, everything else is intertwined to that, your product and your resources. So I'll look at my marketing. Am I doing the proper marketing? What do we need to do to improve our visibility? And also, how do we push our new products? Because these are new. People know us for these. They know us for bags. They don't know us for the big bags. So how do you deal with that? So I think that also came in. But I think for last year, and in times of crisis, it's about survival for the business. So for us, we did masks and did masks. And everything was masks. And at the end, the business was able to be stable again. By the time we were going back and life started again and people started going out and buying things, we were still in business and stable at that matter. So I think for what I would say about strategy is being dynamic and able to fit in the situations as they are. So one thing that I learned, and I must say I've learned through this COVID situation, is that you need to see what do you have in your hands. Use it.
Interesting.
I have machines. I can produce masks. If I can't, I remember we had all prepared for these back to school bags for that we supply in the supermarkets. And it was, you are looking at them there. What do you move your eyes from there and look the other direction? What else can I offer? So that for me, I think for strategy is about being able to sustain your business, sustain your product. People still know, even if we're asked once in a while, you keep pushing that our bags are still there, they're beautiful, they're good, they're available. And so you sustain your visibility and despite the crisis and not lose hope. I think first again, you go back to prayers.
Interesting.
So then you get the divine revelation for new things.
It's quite interesting because what Ken is saying is that for him, his focus is on the business growth. For Grace, primarily trying to look at what do I have in hand to ensure that the business and the turnovers do not go down. What exactly does the report say? Are they saying the truth?
They are saying the truth. For instance, two very key questions. Again, for those who had business plans or strategies. Most of the focus is around business growth or sales growth or new markets, pretty much. That is what they focus on when they carry out business strategy. Now, the interesting thing is, even when it came to COVID-19, it is the same aspects that they focused on. Business growth, sales growth, new market opportunities, and you mentioned branding. That seems to be also a focus area for strategy. So generally speaking, I think whenever an SME owner thinks about strategy, they are forward-looking in terms of growth. And I think one of the ways of saying that is of framing strategies. What decisions do I need to make today, or what choices do I need to make today that will power my growth tomorrow? Because today is already spent, yesterday is gone. So that aspect, I think, is really borne out by the data that business growth, sales growth, all of those pretty much mean the same thing. So that the focus areas, whether it's COVID, pre, post, or within COVID, it's about, can I continue growing? That's what the data is telling us.
That's quite interesting.
Yes.
And maybe just before we even just continue the conversation, I've just gotten some of the results from the poll, and you've been alluding to it many times during this particular conversation. So the question was that, how do you make important decisions in your business? So it is a multiple choice questions. The first one was gut feelings, prayer and fasting, advice from friends and mentors. Maybe just random thought. Nadia, who do you think got the most percentage?
What gets, I think, mentorships. Because that for me is a very strong part.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right, and you got it actually right. So 71% of you guys said that how do they make important decisions? So they go through their mentors. So that's 71%. And then it's followed by gut feeling. Interesting enough. So gut feeling follows by 35%. Wow. And then something quite interesting, following up at a close second runners are prayer and fasting. So 24%. And very interesting is that prayer and fasting is actually more than advice from friends. So guys prefer praying and fasting than getting advice from friends, which is in turn making the important decisions. So one of the things that you've talked about here so many times is the aspect that COVID pandemic came into picture, disrupted a lot in terms of how exactly we're doing business, changed the strategy, doing bags to mask, doing B2B to doing B2C. And there's a value of resilience that comes out of this, because at the end of it, every particular entrepreneur wants their businesses grow. Maybe let me start with you, Ken, in terms of how much did your strategy build up from the resilience that you did want to seek in terms of ensuring that the business remains existent and just thriving?
Actually, how my business learned from the resilience is the fact that, the moment that I had to focus to the B2C platform, notice most people are at home then.
Yeah.
And most people are buying online and everything. So the resilience that came from there is the fact that you have to learn a new market. It's really frustrating because,
you're used to it.
Yeah, B2B, I go to the business owner. We close the deal. But in the B2C, you have to be patient. And the B2C space is so unforgiving. One wrong mistake, you're out. When a customer complains, and they know it's food.
Oh, yes.
It's sensitive. It's not maybe, it's something you eat with your family in the house. So we had instances where we had to really stand in and just hold on there, because it also doesn't peak as fast as you want.
Yeah.
People don't understand your brand, and you need to be patient.
Yeah.
So during that time, I must confess, it wasn't easy. I'm smiling. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Yes, you really had to be patient, someone to understand you. And I remember one of the instructors here at WYLDE told me, Ken, why don't you just start from within your WhatsApp, your friends around? They can start buying from you. You can start feeling at least the business is growing.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. You share your status, you do what, okay, you have this, have this, you have this. So that one really helped me to sustain and be resilient during that time. And I can thank God that after all that, it has really helped together with the strategies that we got from WYLDE.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No pun intended. So primarily meaning that your customers walikuwa tayari. So for Grace, in terms of how you've built resilience over this period of time, how exactly has it been in terms of how you've it's reflected on your strategy?
For us, I would say that I remember when the first lockdown was done, we all had to go home, and I remember I just mentioned to you, we had prepared a lot for the back to school. So when we went home, there is something that really I thought through, that is, if you close, all my staff go home. Building a good team is not easy, especially for SMEs. I'm imagining, how do I lose these people? And then the impact it has on their own lives as well. How do you rebuild again? Say, God, you just have to give us away. They are the prayer.
Pray and fasting.
So,
very important.
It was intense. Moment. So we came back and started trying to make the masks. And the first masks that made, they were backfiring because we didn't have that before. So when we were able to put together the whole masks and put the first, my husband, I remember telling me, just make one flyer. He asked me every day, make a flyer. We did one flyer. I couldn't even manage. What? We had so many people coming and queuing in the office.
Wow.
And then hours were so few. It was 7 to 4. Remember, the staff had to go home by 4 p.m.
Yes.
So you're trying to catch up with this new concept, which you're also training your staff. And by the time we're done, by the time the children were going back to school, we couldn't handle the demand for masks. So for what I would say is, you just have to be determined and resolute in your mind that there's no giving up. So when you remove that from the shelf, then you start seeing all the other things that you can pick in the shelves. The options become many. So I think removing the idea that you can't make it or feeling like this is the end. And I like what thinking is that using messages,
Yes.
and it was ready. So I think the market is there. What people are looking for is that creative idea and the determination to be in the market.
That's very interesting.
And you know what?
Yeah.
That whole mask business has given birth to so many bugs.
Wow.
Because people came to discover us and found bugs inside.
Interesting.
So when I'm coming back to work, I'll come back and buy a bag. So I think for me, it's that it gives you new opportunities.
That's very interesting. Quite interesting testimonies. One of the people who actually suffered last year were the financiers, because strictly from a daily. So, how did strategy come into place in terms of building the resilience and ensuring that the business still remains? Because in the business of lending, guys are not paying. You guys are also mulikata madeni. How exactly was it for you?
I think one of the key things that came into play is that we needed to hear what the clients had to say.
Mm-hmm.
Needed to be very careful. We hear and understand their market. Because at the end of the day, this is what the papers are reporting, this is what the news is saying, but really on the ground, what is really happening?
Yeah.
So when like Grace comes and says, I used to produce bags, I don't produce bags anymore.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't go into a panic mode as a financial thing. What has happened to Grace? I have to understand the environment has completely changed. Grace is now doing this. This particular job she used to, product she used to offer before, most probably had a gross profit margin of 100% or 50%. Now she's doing masks, which could be generating 5%. So her business has totally changed.
Yeah.
So we had to look at life and say, what has happened? Whatever has happened, how has it changed the business of the clients that we have funded?
That's very interesting.
And the other thing is that I remember this was somebody who we not funded as business partners, but I got to know of their business. They're in the still photography. Their biggest clientele was what is called escape photography, where you get especially foreigners coming into the country and going to do their photography at the bar. Or whatever place it is. But now we had a lockdown. These guys were not coming into the country.
Yes.
So these guys were seated there and wondering, okay, so what is next? Unfortunately, they had to go down for some time during the real pandemic, but immediately life came back. In the middle of it, when people now sobered up a little bit, people started noticing, and I have not taken a photo with my wife in a long time. Guess what happened?
Yeah.
Family portraits just picked up. And they got a totally new line of business from family portraits. Then they sat with a consultant at some point, and their business got turned around. I think a month or so ago, they opened a studio.
Wow.
Why? Because they had to relook at their business and say, what has just changed? We used to rely on this line of business. The pandemic has taught us that never do that again. So today they're still photography for weddings. They have the family portraits. Now they have a studio.
Wow.
Because before what they used to do is they would come to your house, they take your photos, or you meet at Karura, or you meet at Arboretum, wherever it is, you take your photos. Now they've created a studio where you're able to go and take your photos. You see the photos that have been taken. How do they look? Do you like them? Do you love them? You select. By the time you walk out, you know which shots they're going to print for you.
That's very interesting.
So it really changed. So it had to. For me, what I've seen is that the businesses that have been able to succeed out of this pandemic, they changed the way they looked at things.
Wow.
They stopped that one eye of we make bags. That's all we know, we make bags. And they opened up their eyes and said, what else can we do in our business? All I need is the camera. The camera can do more than just take a wedding photo. It can take much.
Wow. And one of the main insights that you're looking at through this particular report was the value of strategy for resilience. What exactly did you find out? Because there are very interesting testimonies shared here.
Well, interesting. Also, again, going back to the people who indicated they have strategic plans, there was an answer we asked them. Two questions that we asked them. Number one, my business suffered during COVID-19 because of lack of strategic planning. Now, if we go to across the years, say less than 1 year, 1 to 2 years, and the rest, we find the businesses that are less than 1 year suffered a lot more because of lack of strategic planning in this COVID-19 pandemic scenario. And then, same question. My business suffered during COVID-19 because of lack of strategic planning.
you'll be surprised that those in the 100 million and above turnover, their response is at 67%. Yes. So there seems to be a very strong relationship between having a robust strategic plan and going through times of crisis like COVID-19. Yes.
That's very
I
interesting.
don't know whether Grace has understanding the entrepreneurs.
Well, that's quite interesting. But as we go through this conversation, I'd like to urge everybody who's actually just part of this, just share your questions. You can just pin them up at the comment section. Just let's hear what you have to say. And as we just go about sharing all these particular experiences. And one of the key things that you are looking at as part of this particular strategy is the aspect of involving external facilitators for strategy. And as we're just going through these conversations, we have had different particular perspectives as to how exactly go about making the strategy. Sometimes the business that actually makes you make that particular strategy. But Ken, you alluded also earlier on in terms of involving WYLDE, in terms of coming up with a particular strategy. What exactly prompted you to do this? Yes, and to involve an external facilitator in coming up with the strategy. Because many entrepreneurs want to do it by themselves.
Yeah, actually, a friend of mine, a former high school mate, just
From the WhatsApp.
Yes. Just told me, hey, are you busy?
Yeah.
This training here. So I'm like, what do you mean? And I remember that time I came late here. I sat there. So
You also came late today.
yes.
I'm just playing around.
He told me, hey, come. There's some training happening.
Yeah.
Come and see.
Yeah.
And I know you like it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how, and I said, let me just come and see.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the beginning
Mm-hmm.
of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
So from there, I remember I was given that one pager to mark out a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, I looked at it for 10 minutes. I didn't know what to do, literally. But I really appreciate the fact that through that, I came to know more about strategy, more about how the impact it will have on business, and also on the business that I do, and also the business that my friends do. So, and that is how I came to really appreciate the impact that a strategy can have for our business.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And for you, Grace, you've alluded how your husband also came into played an important role in urging you to change up the new business model. But also one of the things that's going through this conversation, you've alluded in terms of working with an external strategy consultant. What exactly prompted you to do this?
For the first time we started, I went for a training which had been organized by International Trade Organization, and Klinya was talking about strategy. Mm-hmm. And everything he was talking about seemed like the crisis I was dealing with. So after that, I followed him.
After prayer and fasting.
Divine intervention. Divine connection. Divine connection. So I met him and we spoke. And he actually has worked with our business as well for the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. And I think that really is one thing that I must say I appreciate, the fact that you get an external eye that gives you what you can't see about yourself. Mm-hmm. When you do the strategy within yourselves, you speak to yourself. Mm-hmm. But somebody else is able to give you an extra eye and give you a definition of who you really are, yeah, which you don't think you are.
Definitely.
You know, there's how you define yourself and how other people see you. So for me, that has been very resourceful and also helps me to understand how to strategize. There are certain things that an external person or an expert, for that matter, on strategies is able to tell you this is the kind of strategy that looks best with this. Then we discuss it and how does it fit in with your business. So getting somebody external, for that matter, I think WYLDE has really been resourceful for us, and I will still hang around. And as we grow and as we deal with the different phases that we're about to go into as a business, we've gotten into a new phase. We used to wait for people to come to us, but now we've realized how much we need to go out. So we've opened a shop at the Hub Karen to start getting to our market directly. As you mentioned, we used to wait for the business. We were working mainly with businesses, but they cut their marketing budgets, meaning now the bags for promotions are not as many. So I need to go and make the bag that fits my customer directly. So that kind of, the whole change was very, really defining our strategy, and it's not easy because it's a whole new area which we never planned when we were starting. That's why I'm saying as you start, you go changing and be ready to change. Be ready to absorb the shock and grow.
Interesting. And Mr. Michael, when we just, one of the core things that you mentioned earlier on with regards to working with different SMEs before giving out any particular loan advancement or any particular funding is the aspect of them having a particular strategy in place. And one of the things that you mentioned, most of the businesses that actually come into place do not have an existing strategy. What do you think is the importance of having an external facilitator for every particular business having an external facilitator to aid them towards their strategy?
What I think Grace to some extent has alluded to it. What the consultant or a third party does for you is that they help you look at things differently. They help you see what you had not seen before, and they help you see clarity in it, what you want to do. Like I mentioned, for these guys who are in still photography, the consultant kept pushing them and asking them, there must be something else beyond just taking photos for weddings. And by that push, just keeping asking them that same question, what is it else you can do with a camera other than take a wedding photo, made the difference for them. So I believe what a third party does is that they help you get some clarity. They actually pose difficult questions, which at times you do not want to deal with. But if you actually deal with them, it makes a total difference in your business.
Interesting. Yes. And before we even just get to proceed with the conversation, there's a question here from Mr. Benson Wainaina. And the question is that at what stage do you require strategic planning? Maybe from your experience, at what stage do you require strategic planning?
From my experience, now that I appreciate what strategy does for business, you need it all through from the beginning, because it gives you a vision where you're going. And apart from giving you a vision where you're going, it also gives you the small action blocks that you have to do every single day. The problem I realize, actually, let me speak for myself, is strategy attempts may give you that vision there, but breaking it down to daily actions is what will make you reach there. Because at times it may look so big, but it is through. So to me, it asks me at what point I would go with every single step from the beginning, so that you know where you are going and you know the little actions that you need to do today to lead you to the bigger vision.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Grace, do you consent?
Yes, I agree with him completely about having the strategy from as early as possible. Because in one thing you realize is it helps you to plan. When you start, there is this money that you have that you think can carry you to this big dream. But then along the way, it depletes. And you start going to everybody around you to fund you.
Yes.
And one thing that I can say is with a strategy, it helps you to get a little more planned. And you realize this is my boundary. I can't go beyond this. This is what I can use. This is how you have like a guide. I would say the strategy is your guide. So not having a guide from the word go means that you are likely to fail. So I also say that the strategy process also helped us to start thinking, going to look for the financiers. Before you are feeling like this, I don't want to go into debt. The Bible says. So you have that fear of going to look for the finances, but you get to realize they are actually enablers. The finance institutions are there to support you and to help you. So that helps your planning. So the financiers, you know where to go. You start studying, and then during this strategy plan is who can you go to and for what? So that helps you. The earlier, the better you learn. You don't have to go through the crisis that all of us went through who did have strategies. I didn't have any. Mine, I have, dug everywhere, every direction until I've gotten myself on my feet. And I think it is not something that anybody should go through, especially when you're starting business. Start early, get your strategy, look for help. it sometimes sounds like it's expensive, but it's not. It's a cost that every business needs to plan for.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And Mr. Michael, in regards to this, and the question that has been asked by Mr. Benson, in terms of at what point do you need strategic planning? I don't know. What exactly do you advise, Benson?
I think Ken and Grace have captured it pretty well. If you can get a strategy at the inception of your business, that's the most ideal. Unfortunately, not many of us as entrepreneurs have done that. So the key thing is that when you discover about strategy, you need to just get it and do it right. If you're ever imagining that you want to look for funding to fund your business, please make sure you have a strategy. Because what does that do to you? It gives you clarity. Because remember, what a financier is looking from you is to understand, do you even understand your business? Do you understand where you want to take your business? Is your business scalable in the first place? Now, as you do your strategic plan, you start seeing those things glaring at you. You start looking and saying, actually, who is in this space? Who is the competition? And like Ken said, you actually discover you don't want to get stuck at the business-to-business relationship only. There's another opportunity at the business to direct to the consumer. And you actually explore that and say, maybe I need to do this, and I will restrict my revenue to come only 40% from the businesses and 60% to come from the direct consumers, because you've discovered maybe there's even more margins there. It's more stable, or whatever the argument is. But in just doing that strategy, you're able to change and maybe diversify, look at all the options. And what have we seen as we engage entrepreneurs? When you have a strategy, you have so much clarity about your business.
Interesting.
You have so much clarity. You know who is your competitor, you know who to worry about and who not to worry about. Because you know there are competitors who you don't need to worry about. Because what they do is that they actually complement you. Is because by them doing what they're doing, your business is growing. By having a clear strategy, you then get that clarity and you're able to move. If there's one thing I have seen, have a business strategy, you have clarity for the business.
Quite interesting. And just keep on having a question. Just bring on the questions, actually. And I'm getting and I'm receiving all those particular questions, and I'm going to be addressing them as we go into this. And as we come up to the summit of that particular report, what exactly are some of the recommendations? Because we've just gone through the report and some of the different areas that you focused on for the report. What exactly are the recommendations?
Okay. Some key recommendations, again, from the survey respondents who indicated that they had existing strategic plans. And the question pretty much was, what do you do to survive crises like COVID-19? Not necessarily just COVID-19. What do you do to survive crisis? So about 21% of them responded that innovation and adaptation is very, very important. And then 22% responded, you need to have a comprehensive strategy to help you do that. Of course, other responses are cut across, but those are the ones that are of interest to us. Have a strategy, have a comprehensive strategy. And then number two, in terms of innovation and adaptation. And I think for innovation and adaptation, I think Grace and Mike have already alluded to that. Because I think what we're saying is we have these capabilities. Where else can we deploy them? Because we already have those capabilities. And we've been deploying them in this particular area. Now the market has tanked in that particular area, but we still have the capabilities. Why can't you use this capability to solve this other problem in the same broad industry, so to speak? So innovation, very important. And then developing strategy, also very, very important. Then the other things that they mentioned, this is, of course, entrepreneur to entrepreneur, advising other entrepreneurs. So conduct regular strategic planning exercises, very, very good. And then they also said, take advantage of external facilitators because they bring both experience and objectivity. And then develop a culture of strategy. Those are some of the recommendations that entrepreneurs give to other entrepreneurs in terms of this report.
That's quite interesting because it seems like the entrepreneurs are their own doctors. This is what I think
they know why it hurts the most.
They know it hurts the most, and they know why exactly.
They've burnt their fingers already, so they know. I think they're speaking from experience.
Interesting. And there's quite a number of questions that are coming in, and maybe we can just be tackling them as we go about. So there's a question from a gentleman called Juma Frederick, and he's asking, are SMEs ready to hire a force to help them with planning? Is it a new niche that needs more awareness generation for SMEs to know why they need it? So primarily the question is that, what's it called? Do SMEs really need help in terms of planning? So let's go, maybe the best person to answer is the person who actually where it bites the most. And maybe to you, Ken, do you really need it?
Yes. Because, when you need that expertise for you to really operate and run your business in a more effective way. Because, for example, I'll use my case. You get, at times you find yourself, before the planning, before bringing the strategy and everything, you'll find yourself navigating through this ecosystem of the business can be a challenge because it's not enough to have an idea. Maybe having that good idea, but how to navigate right now in the ecosystem of the business, from the social media, right now to the distributor. Because you may be having a very good product, but if it cannot reach you, not so if you ask me, I really go for the fact that it is important to really consider it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And maybe just from this particular question, there's an aspect of perception of strategy and its importance in the business. And one of the key aspects is that maybe some may perceive it not important because for him it is one of the core aspects that Grace had alluded to, that particular cost from your experience is very important for the day-to-day running of the business.
Yeah.
In your perspective, maybe just take me through, what was your perception like when you did not engage in strategy or having a consultant help you in strategy? And what exactly is your perception now? What were you thinking then what was your, just take me through your thought process before engaging strategy. How are you operating like?
To engage in strategy, I was operating on the aspect of, I'll be honest with you, most as entrepreneurs, you always so psyched out. You are so in such a trick, I'll go do it, and you go get yourself in a ditch. So my experience, I really burnt my fingers, and I came to realize you want to invest $3 million in a business, but you see, or $30,000, you want to invest that, but the cost of a strategy can be maybe 30,000 on a monthly basis to just work with you maybe even for 6 months. So you see, you're putting 3 million, but here it's just thinking. But you go burn that 3 million, you find yourself in a debt, but it would have been much better if you engaged a specialist, someone from a bird's eye view. See, hey, you're before I burnt myself so much because it was more, hey,
it's like buying a Range Rover with no insurance.
So you feel motivated.
Yeah.
But motivation is good, but it's not enough.
It's unsustainable.
Yeah, it's not enough. Because at times, there are days it rains, there are days you have to chew the gum as you climb the stairs. So I came to realize strategy is key. You at times you may, by just involving that strategy, you may even decide to say, hey, I'm not going to this business yet. I'm not ready for it. But you've saved yourself a lot other than going there or maybe the market is not ready for you by just having a third eye to discuss with you. So that would really help a lot of SMEs to know how to approach the market. Because you may be saying, I have 20 million, but you may lose it in 6 months. But this person was here to give you advice with just a very small fee.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And maybe Grace, what exactly is experiencing?
I think I agree with him, especially on the losses. You cut your losses. I had come from a background of running an NGO, which I also had started. And one thing I knew, you burn money there. Everybody is asking you your capability and your capacity and your effectiveness is depending on how fast you consume, how much you've been given.
You don't have funding. So
yes, so you come to this side. Before you know it, here you're supposed to save money. And you have already burnt it because your background had something to do with how you're using the money now. So what I want you to realize is who you are in business, your background has a lot of influence on it. So when it comes to business, you need that external thought that helps you to plan properly. Had I done that before, some of the mistakes I made, I would not have done. However, some of those mistakes, to some extent, have their own learnings, but very painful. So the strategy helps you to save and to plan. And that is this other person who is doing the strategy with you has also gone ahead of you, done some research to assist you in the report that they give you. So working with an expert helps you with that. And I think for me, what I would say is before I started doing, I told you when we met Kirinya, he was talking about all my crisis. That experience. So that's what you are about into, and how do you save yourself from them? So, like you are also getting stuck as your capacity goes up to as far as your knowledge. So you get stuck at certain points. So this expert helps you to rethink where you are getting stuck. So some of the things I would give an example from my own experience is hiring staff. I was finding it, our area is so specialized because bags are not clothing. They are quite delicate. If you make one mistake, especially in leather, that item is off the shelf. You can't even sell it. So you're getting people who come and mess up your leather. Leather is expensive. So the mistakes I was making is not investing heavily on someone sitting in throughout or coming in on certain times and everything. So we started discussing what are the options that we have on managing our human resource. And I remember one of the things that we discussed is train your own people. That has grown the business to where we are now. A small investment in terms of the expert advising you is worth. Yeah.
Interesting. And wow, quite very interesting testimonies. But before we go to continue the conversation, I'm made aware there's a video that you're supposed to play of an entrepreneur who's actually engaged an expert and how exactly the experience is. So just don't consume from my experience. Kuna pia mwingine pia part of you guys who's actually watching this was experienced this. So just go ahead and play it. But I'm made aware the sound is not there. So as the technical team continues just to work on it, I'll be receiving your questions. So I'm just urging you, everybody just ask any question that you have. We've been having an extensive conversation for the past 1 hour. We still have quite some minutes remaining that I want you guys to benefit out of it. So just send your questions on the comment. I'll get it. And I'll just also ask that particular question. There's someone here is asking when will the report be shared? So that is, what's it called? Who is it? I've forgotten, I can't get the name, but he's asking when will the report be shared? So the report will be shared after this. And how exactly you can access that particular report, you can go to wyldeinternational.com. So WYLDE is WYLDE international.com. So go to wyldeinternational.com to access this particular strategy pulse report. This Boniface Munene here is asking, say in my business, it's really young. I'm investing my salary to eat slowly. When should I decide to involve a strategy expert? So next to me is a strategy expert.
Very interesting. So some 2 or 3 preliminary comments here. So first and foremost, at WYLDE International, we believe every small business owner is a strategy practitioner anyway, and they're strategy practitioners by default. So if you look at every business, you're going through challenges and you're going through opportunities, isn't it? So how do you respond to those challenges and how do you respond to those opportunities? That's kind of like a strict definition of strategy, isn't it? So the truth of the matter is they are practicing strategy anyway. Yes. Even though they've not done that from a formal standpoint, they are practicing strategy anyway, because they're making decisions about the challenges they're experiencing. They're making decisions about the opportunities that are coming along their way. But are those decisions correct? So that's the first comment I need to make on this. So it is not that you don't have a strategy, you're practicing it anyway. The thing we need to ask ourselves is it correct? So the second comment around strategy is I need to bring in the idea of, because one of the things that people object to strategy because they think it is expensive. or there's cost attached to it and they're not ready to incur that cost. The truth of the matter is you are incurring a cost already, and that cost is called opportunity cost. You're probably getting off in the wrong direction and wasting a lot of living. So they're able to identify issues faster and maybe even more with more clarity than somebody who is pretty much just narrowed down on your business. So we bring the experiences of working across many businesses and across and then insights from across very many industries to bear on your business. So the process becomes faster, the process becomes more efficient, and the clarity comes in a lot earlier. That's a benefit of working with an external facilitator. But again, to reiterate, you're already practicing strategy anyway. So the question really is it working for you?
Yes. Interesting. And there's another question that also just relates to that. And it's from an anonymous attendee asking, can a business canvas help in making a business strategy clear?
The short answer to the question is yes. But as with any tool, if you hold the knife the other way around, you will get cut, not the meat. So the tool is there, and it's actually an effective tool for building what you might call a rule of thumb strategy. It is an effective tool, but again, with all tools, how you use it really determines whether you get to the destination or not. So the answer is yes. Maybe Mike has something to add to that.
No, make sure you do not have that knife facing you.
I agree. And for me, I see strategy as the way Karina is putting it to me. I've always seen strategy, and especially when you look at it from a consultant point of view, as a coaching and mentoring opportunity. Because what this person is doing is that they're using their experience to help you see things that you would not have seen. So they're not really coming necessarily to tell you, do it this way. They're sharing and telling you, I've seen this person do it this way. I have seen this way. Have you asked yourself this question? And as you ask that question to yourself, then you create a strategy that makes sense to your business.
Interesting.
So interesting. I think it must have been 2 or 3 years ago. I encountered one client, and this client their business had literally come to a halt. They were not making money, and they knew they were not making money. And they were at that point they were saying, I either need to close down this business or change it to make it make money. And at that point, if I'm not wrong, they must have, they didn't work with Karina, with WYLDE, they worked with somebody else, but I remember they worked with a consultant I had encountered. And what this consultant was able to do is to first show them where their business was, because they had no picture of where their business was. They didn't have a sight of their business. And with time, they were able to go back and say, oh, actually, we just need to rejig. Remember that tool that Karina was talking about? I have a tool. It's not working here. What else can I do with it? And they did that, and it totally turned their business. Today, I still see the business running, and I'm impressed and I'm happy. Why? And I always say, if they never encountered that consultant at that particular time, maybe today that business would not be in existence.
That's quite interesting. So I think there's a gentleman here asking, I'm a civil engineer. I'm a civil engineering technician, and I've ventured into photography as my first business. Balancing job and business is really hard for me. My business is really young, so it's not a question. I don't know if any of you has actually experienced that in terms of maybe before just fully venturing into business, had that particular element of balancing between business and employment.
Yes.
That's wrong, yes. Looks like it was a painful.
Okay, just tell me, how exactly was your experience? Maybe what are some of the lessons you can actually share to them?
Okay. One is when you're working, they want your attention. The staff that you have there. Because, if you've not cultivated an aspect, a culture that you don't need to supervise them for everything to work, if that culture isn't there, or maybe it is there, but you can't miss one true cheeky persons there. So you get you are coming back to the business maybe in the evening to see how things are. We find, oh, you messed this product, and how do I know it was messed? A customer calls you, oh, Leo, like one of the products, hey, product for today, hey, what happened in your production? Something changed. So that is the challenge. So you see the customer is balancing that, and also in terms of making your staff understand your product and your customer. So there's something I read was saying that when you take good care of your staff, they'll take good care of the product and your customers will be happy.
That's true.
Yes, it is true, because now they feel the pain of messing. You see, this is all is feeding you. You've messed that customer. So the tactic you learn from that, you make your staff understand the process, understand that what you're doing here will affect the customer at the other end. So that's how I brought a balance. So you see, you can do other things, you can come sit here and have this discussion, because they know I screw this up, the customer will complain, and the chain goes on and on. So when you treat your staff well, be sure your customers will be happy, because they will carry that value.
Very interesting. Grace, I don't know how exactly the experience was.
I think he's having what Kenyans like calling a side hustle. That thing that you do on the side that really to complement your income, not 100% that you want to go into it. And I think what he would have been helpful for him is to think, where does he see his business going? I think if he has that small strategy to start with, you don't have to have a very complicated thing. I like what Kirinya, when he came, he demystified on ourselves, because we had in NGO, you have this document that has to impress every donor. It is very detailed and well done, and you take time to work on it. So that is the background I came with. So I kept feeling, no, I'm not going to do that. This is going to be very expensive and all that. So we need to first unpack that the strategy is a simple document that guides you. It does not matter how big or small your business is. So seeing the side hustle is something that does need a strategy is very helpful for you, because it helps you while you're concentrating on the other side. You know how the other one is going, because you have a guide for it. Whether you are there or not, the guide will help you. So for me, I didn't have anything. I discovered everything along the way. I didn't have a strategy, though I knew strategies are helpful. When I came to my own business, I didn't have first, because when the questions were being asked about my strategy, my market, my finances, my everything, I'm thinking it's too much because you have not thought through it well. But if you spend time with the expert, they help you to put things together step by step. And then you have this document, which is so simple, like 4 pages. As he said, 1 page. You should be able to see your dream there in 1 page. But I think strategies have been shown, as you say, you go to the bank and there is this very impressive document that has so many mathematics and things inside there, and make you start feeling, hey, I don't even have the photos to show off with. They are Mrikawizi ones. So I think for small businesses, it's step by step. You grow and shine. I think the most important thing is, wherever the space you're in, have a small strategy. Let it guide you, and you'll be impressed with where you'll be in the next week. Soon, you don't need to have it as a side hustle. You will move over and allow your job to somebody else who wants to grow.
That's interesting. There's a question here by a gentleman called Boniface Munene, and the question is thanks. I think then the cost is okay. Let me just try to Kizungu pia inakuwa Kizungu mkuti. So it's like, okay. I'm trying to read this particular question, but I can't just get the English. But he's saying that the cost of involving a strategy expert is really flat. I read the question. Let me just try to rephrase it in my English. My goodness. So he's trying to say that he's trying to run a side hustle of a photography business, but it's literally milking him out, and he's finding that with the existing business milking him out, how exactly can he go about getting a strategy consultant? Right, because he thinks those are very expensive. So he feels that everything is going to be a rip-off. So that's literally the question. Sorry. Maybe can
I say something there? Just to add, I think those fears are real. They're very real. So what I could say is, there are small associations which people come together and you can hire a consultant together to work with you to develop your strategy. If you feel like this, even if I'm removing money, I cannot reach anywhere close to a strategist. But as Krinya says, that it's something that they can work with you, and you can also work with like-minded partners that you help. I'm in an association, we call ourselves Ubunifu Association, and we've done strategies together. We've been able to source for funds and support as together, you know, that working with as a community, and you're able to be effective so that you don't feel threatened alone to go and look for a strategist to help you do it. I think there are also WYLDE organizers where several people are brought together, and that the cost, I don't know anything about the cost, but I could say at that point, you see the cost is redistributed. So that would help you, but please don't see it as a threat to your finances, but a point of multiplying what you have.
Interesting. And maybe just before Mr. Green, you go ahead and just answer it. There's a part of that his particular predicament is that how can I access affordable strategy support? Is there an institution or a person that leases services as we grow?
The straight answer is there is such an institution. It's called WYLDE International. And Grace has alluded to that. We have two approaches to strategy. When you're a bit larger or a bit more mature, you probably need a one-to-one process. So that's carried out WYLDE International and yourself as a business. But for younger businesses that are probably strapped of cash flow, you still get the same quality product. We call it scalarizer, but that is the approach is like one-to-many. In other words, you're in a workshop with about 5 or 6 peers. There's a big benefit to that. First and foremost, you stop feeling alone, that you're in this journey alone. Next, the workshop just lasts a day. And then, and I think Ken, that's when you went through Scalarizer, yes. So Ken went through Scalarizer and still got the same benefit of that one-to-one process. Now, as to the cost, again, let me go back to my earlier point. Even the lack of a strategy is itself a strategy. Yes. So is it taking you anywhere? So even lack of a strategy is in itself a strategy. So for this, and I like his question, because I know when it comes to products like strategy, people think a lot about the cost, but they think in terms of the money that is leaving their pockets. They do not think about that economic concept called opportunity cost. So those sleepless nights that he's going through, that lack of clarity that he's going through, even that is a cost to him, isn't it? It's dragging him down. So Scalarizer is probably the best product for such a person because we charge 25,000 shillings. And you come in, we put you in a workshop that lasts a day. And beyond that workshop, you get the benefit of having one-on-one individual mentorship or coaching, where now we narrow down to aspects of your business and just help you unlock value for your business. So it's probably a better candidate for Scalarizer at this time because it only costs 25,000 shillings. And I think Ken has something to say about that.
Yes.
Go ahead. How was the experience with Scalarizer?
One was the collegial teamwork that I found here. Two, the people that interacted, I got to know different investors, I should say. You know, when you see others also going through it and you have to encourage each other and you learn from each other. And also the network, the business network that came from the Scalarizer. You got a fashion designer, you got someone who does baking, someone does this. So the network expanded, and also to entrepreneurs, also network is key. So you tend to know many people. And apart from that, yes, it lasts a day, but there's a coach that follows you through for sessions that goes for 3 months. So to just monitor, hey, are you doing it right? Are you doing it right? For me here, I had Jackson. Yes. And kept me on toes, kept your toes, and package actually, I found that to much more better than what we can cost in terms of mistakes or navigate the business.
Interesting. Quite an interesting comment on this. So from business partners' point of view, it's very interesting what that whole conversation we're having, how important it is. As a business, what we do is that beyond just funding you, we actually give you an interest-free facility, which we call a technical assistance. And the purpose of that technical assistance is, for example, dealing with such situations. When you're saying you need somebody to help you sort out your financial part of your business, it's not clear. So we get you a consultant who sits with you, for example, for 6 months, month on month, to work with you and make sure that you sort out your financial journey. So, for example, like Grace mentioned, maybe it's the HR side that needs to be sorted out. We get a specific consultant then who comes and helps you work with you on the HR side. At times, it could be just general business strategy or leadership, where you, as the owner and founder of the business, you need somebody to just help you think through the overall strategy of the business. And why have we gone to that extent? Is because we realized the importance of strategy in your business. So we're saying, yes, we're giving you funding here, but we've seen some things here. If you don't sort them out, your business might not get where it needs to be. So we pump in some money as an organization, which we don't charge you interest on. We just tell you, just pay us back our money for the next 3 years or 4 years. Pay it over that period, but during that, the next 6 months or so, you get your strategy sorted out.
Oh, that's quite interesting. So before you get to continue the conversation, there's a video that we had actually inputted earlier on, but you're having a technical challenge. I'm told it's actually ready. So maybe we can just plug it in before we continue the conversation.
My name is Sylvia Akuria, and I am an organic farmer from Deya in Limuru. And just to give you a quick background about where I started from and how I ended up as a farmer, I actually studied for a Bachelor of Arts in Community Development and Psychology. And I did a very short course in business administration. But, you know, farming was always my dream. I always knew that I always wanted to become a farmer at some point. So I went into research, and that's when I stumbled on organic farming. And that is actually how my business started, because I started growing food on half an acre for my family. And before long, it was too much. It was actually more than enough. And then after that, I got my friends to start, like my friends would visit us in Limuru, and would always share with them the extra produce that we had in the basket, in the farm, sorry. And that's when one of my friends just said, you know, why don't you start a business and call it Sylvia's Basket? So a friend of mine did the Scalarizer program last year during COVID. And, you know, she was just on and on me. She was like, Sylvia, you have to do this course. You have to do this course. It's going to really change your life. It's going to change how you see your business. You know, it has principles that you may not know about or know how to employ them in your work. So I just wondered, I mean, what is there for me in Scalarizer? But he just would not let me go. So I just had to sign up just for her to let me be. So I signed up for Scalarizer. And let me say, it was an amazing experience. I totally loved it. Let me tell you, by the end of my class, I was really taking pictures. I was recommending the program to everyone and all my friends and telling them, you have to do Scalarizer. Many people who might be listening to me right now are in business and are extremely lonely. And you don't have to be lonely. That's all I have to say. You don't have to be lonely. I mean, Scalarizer from WYLDE is a wonderful program that will make sure that you'll never have to walk that road alone.
Quite an interesting story. I think one of the things that I've just gotten from that video, you just don't have to walk this particular journey alone. And the Scalarizer program is actually quite an interesting program, whereby Ken is actually a testimony. And yeah, we can actually just get to borrow from it. And just as we proceed, I'm just asking you guys just to share your particular questions. And there's a question here.
by a gentleman called Kevin Omolo, and he's asking, can there be a strategy for general supplies business targeting government and NGOs? You've had experience in NGOs. So
That's a strategy.
That's a strategy. How to spend.
Even what you are saying. That's a big part of the strategy.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, just by the question itself, you already has a target market, isn't it? It's targeting NGOs and government. So what's not clear is what problem is trying to solve for the NGOs and the government. And then, of course, the strategy will be now that's you're clear about the target market and the needs of the target market. How will you go about executing those needs? So yes, it's possible to have a strategy for any business, so to speak.
Interesting. There's another question here by still Boniface, and which is a good thing. And I'm asking more of you to ask more questions like Boniface. And he's asking, I will just ask this question. As a young person, I have this anticipation of different ventures. I've already started my photo studio. Though young, I have ideas of running more businesses like branding and marketing, a certain agricultural product. I feel like it's going to be a burden and might fail. Both businesses may fail. I might be missing an opportunity on the other. How can I get through this? So Boniface wants to chew everything.
Well, I think we should ask entrepreneurs to respond to that first. Because they also have a history, I'm sure.
Interesting. So maybe Grace, let's go in here. You've been at it for the last 20 years, which kind of a considerable period of time. And you came from a background whereby you're spending, and then you come into another world of entrepreneurship whereby you don't have to spend. So how exactly was it in terms of how did your business move? Because here is Boniface wants to start so many businesses at the same time, but also afraid of failure. How was it for you?
I would say I would encourage him first to go one at a time, invest, let it grow and give back to the others. They will be. It's easier that way because by the time you're moving to another business, the first one is already stable. I think also there are many mistakes that come with businesses. So if you take too many of them, you will find yourself a little bit, lost in between all these businesses. I've done different businesses. I must say my first experience was a butchery. And I did some mistakes there where I brought in, like you're thinking, oh, let me get so-and-so to come and work with me. I bring my relatives. Before I knew it, the business was in another level. They used to bring in when I leave, they would bring in their own meat. So what I'm trying to say is, you see, if I was doing something else, I was doing counseling and psychology somewhere else. So you see, now I'm also strict and I'm not there to see how my business is growing. I'm not able to monitor and see the challenges. By the time we discovered, we were 2 years down on this investment and the business is running. You can see when I spend the whole day, we sell and resell. Yes. I go buy the big so to the butchery, and then when I go, the other one comes in with their meat, and that's the one that is sold the whole day. So you come and find your whole meat is there. Yes. So meaning there are no customers. Yes. But when you're there are customers. So you get to discover, but it's too late. So what am I telling you? If you take too many things, you are likely to experience that kind of challenges. And so the fear of failure is real if you have very many businesses. I would say when you're starting one at a time, let it be strong enough so that you have systems, you have people, you have whatever you need, that whether you are there or not, the business is stable already and is able to bring income. You have systems of controls where you're not likely to have such kind of losses. So the other one now can come in. So step by step, and you grow. You'll be able to be that big entrepreneur that you're dreaming to be.
That's a very interesting experience. No pun intended. So when you're leaving, they're having their own meeting.
The meat will come. The other vehicle of meat will land.
And Ken, I don't know how experience has been. Or Grace's experience has just shocked you. Did people also come and eat your own food?
Yeah, I think what Grace has said actually what happens most of the so I encourage my friend to focus on one systems work. Then from there, you can now expand to the next. But maybe if I may try to pretend I'm in mind, maybe see how we choose which is the most viable. I think again that how we choose what is the most viable.
Yes.
So I think the best way to know that what's the most viable is again, as you have been told, is strategy. Because when you do good research, when you do good market research, maybe it has all those and it's feeling like all of them will bring the best revenue. So choosing the best out of that, what is that also will play a key role. Again, there, strategy becoming.
Interesting. Then speaking about strategy, as we just try to fold this particular conversation, the Scalarizer program that has been noted by the lady who actually just shared her experience. And I think that's one of the biggest questions that most of the persons asking, because I can also see here a question by an anonymous individual who's asking, any advice for strategy for consulting business? We can give a strategy without knowing what exactly the business is all about, but maybe Mr. Kenya, you could just take us through the Scalarizer program. What exactly does it entail? Who exactly does it target? And for those who are watching this, because most of them seem to be starting young businesses, we like Mr. Boniface wants to start so many businesses. How exactly does the Scalarizer program benefit them?
Okay, interesting. So Scalarizer is a product that has been developed over a period of time based on our interaction with entrepreneurs. So, and it's pretty much just about, it's a stripped down way of developing strategy for SMEs. So if you've been in business for about 2 years and above, you really do qualify for Scalarizer. So what is it going to do for you? What's Scalarizer going to do for you? First and foremost, you're going to develop very clear ideas about two areas. Number one, what value does your business create and for who? Those are the two questions we endeavor to answer in Scalarizer. Who are you targeting and what value does a business create for them? Now, underneath those questions, what we really do try to surface is what problem are you solving and for who? So once that is very clear, the next step is what do we need to do to solve those problems or to address those issues for your target market? And there's a whole host of things. I mean, a host of things. You probably need to build capabilities. You probably need to sort out your branding. There are many things that, there are many initiatives that will come from those two questions. And then the third one is what is really critical. One of the things about developing strategy is that you can come up with dozens and dozens of initiatives. But the thing is this, how do you know what is nice to have and what is need to have? So the way Scalarizer is structured so that we focus on the need to have, not the nice to have. And now, once you focus on that, Scalarizer actually helps you unlock value for your business. And it's structured in this way. First day, you spend a whole day in a workshop in this place, but we're introducing an online version, which is probably shorter. And in that space, of course, we try and answer those three questions. Who are you targeting? What problem are you solving for them? What will it take to solve those problems? So that's what happens during Scalarizer, during the workshop. Then followed 2 weeks later or so, we start our one-on-one coaching. So the Scalarizer session was group learning, if you like. It was a group workshop, but the coaching sessions are one-on-one. And we have WYLDE coaches, my colleagues and partners, help us, will help you now one-on-one based on your business. This time, we're not talking about other businesses, it's about your business, and help you unlock value, whether it's dealing with obstacles, whether it's just helping you clarify a little bit more. And those one-on-one sessions there are 2 of them. Then finally, we come back for what is called a peer-to-peer coaching. This time round, you're back in your cohort, as it were, and we share experiences and we share learning experiences from one another. Because the truth of the matter is, even if you're a consultant, that much business, consulting experience, we don't have exclusive knowledge. You can also learn from your fellow entrepreneurs in terms of peer-to-peer. Someone might say, oh, I think I have this issue with my staff. I think I have this issue with my accountant. And maybe your peer will be like, I had the same thing 2 years ago. This is what you need to do. So that's a benefit of Scalarizer. 1 day workshop, 2 one-on-one coaching. Then the third is actually group coaching. Now, all of that package for 25,000 shillings only. So we try to make that affordable and effective for a typical SME. Remember, when I was sharing the beginning of the report, most of the SMEs seem to have a turnover below 2 million shillings. Yeah. And by the time you get to 5 million shillings per year, you're almost at 70 or 75% of the SMEs. So our Scalarizer is designed for that target market. Now, the strategy product is a little more mature, and here you need to have been in business a little longer, and it's a one-on-one basis. So those strategy sessions usually last 2 days, and we prefer to have them offsite. Now, then after that, we do probably quarterly strategy reviews just to make sure we extract as much value as possible for your business. So that's just the summary of the Scalarizer product. And I think Boniface had very interesting questions. Yeah. And maybe I have a counter question for him.
Yes.
So Boniface wants to start this business and that business and that business and that business. What is he really trying to achieve? My speculation is that he's trying to hedge his bets by diversifying, isn't it? But the truth of the matter is, I think he's not very clear about any of the businesses, which is why he's trying to hedge his bets, which is why I'll come back to what Grace has said. Settle on one, unlock its value, and probably use those cash flows and that experience to move to the other businesses. That the desire is okay to diversify, but the motivation might be a bit, we may need to interrogate the motivation a little bit more. And then again, if you're starting 3 businesses or 4 businesses, remember, one of the things about SMEs, and all these SME owners will tell you, SMEs are bundles of problems. They are bundles of problems.
They're not bundles of joy.
And joy. They are bundles of problems. So do you want to multiply your problems 3 times over, 5 times over? Why not just start with the firstborn, as it were, let them mature, and then move to the second and the third and the fourth. And I'm sure Mike has something to say about that also.
Interesting you say that. I think since I was a child, I always wondered why a particular community, the Asian community, only runs one business, and not one business, one product. You go to a shop on not Kirinaga Road, is it River Road? I think it's River Road. Yeah. River Road there. And you find this guy only sells buttons. He doesn't even sell the thread for the buttons. He only sells the buttons. And he doesn't look like he's poor, or he doesn't look like he's suffering. Yes. And he only sells buttons. And I kept asking myself, why do I have to run a button shop, a thread shop, a fabric shop, and shoe shop on the other side? Why don't I just concentrate on the buttons? And I think there's some merit in that. And they've proved, even when you look at the original Dukawalas, which were on the same street, they just used to do one thing. And the other day I met a client who told me the same thing. He just wants to do one thing and perfect it. And his argument was, the more learned you are, the more you want to diversify. Because knowledge seems to give you this impression that you can have all these things running. But the person who is less educated tends to concentrate on one thing to prove a point. I can get this done. So I just said, maybe this education is bringing us more problems than things.
That's interesting. So you prefer to be the learned or the other person?
In fact, at this point, I'm thinking I want to be the less learned, because I have something to prove that I can make this happen. So I'll concentrate on my buttons, and that's it.
So that's the only button you're going to press. But anyways, just come to a close. Maybe I can just get the final remarks in terms of this particular report that has actually been put out, the Strategy Pulse report. And some of you have been asking, where exactly is this particular report going to be posted? So after this particular session during the day, I think you can actually go check out the strategy pulse report on www.WYLDE International. So WYLDE is WYLDE international.com. It can also be posted on the comment section if you just click on it. www.wildeinternational.com. So from your experience, because on my right side, entrepreneurs, on my left side, financials, quite strategic. So maybe just as we close, maybe to the persons that should just watching this, what do you think is, give them a call to action as to why strategy is important and why exactly it is also very important to work with a consultant towards building a particular business.
But any person aspiring or any person who's already in business, you've invested a lot of money. Strategy is your go-to partner. It will help you not to waste that amount that you've invested. Because most people cry they've gone into losses. Most people cry they've gone into the bank, their fingers, like I did personally. But up until when I embraced strategy in terms of business processes and operations, things are looking bright. So my advice to any young entrepreneur, any experienced entrepreneur, embrace strategy. It's key to make sure that you move to the right direction. Because right now, in this digital phase that we are in, navigating that ecosystem can be tricky. So strategy, I keep saying, it's a living document.
Interesting.
I'll encourage everyone who is getting into business, who has just started the business, you only have an idea, and those ones who already have something going on, establish your plan, your dream, put it in paper. Let it guide you, and you know you will not go wrong because it's a point of reference. And be ready to evolve with your strategy, to go changing according to circumstances, according to what the environment is offering you. You will actually grow to that dream that you want, because all of us are dreaming to be very successful business leaders. And I think when you have a strategy, growth is definite. And you hear most businesses die before they are 5 years old. Mm-hmm. This saves you from that, so that you don't die before you even breathe. So come in out there and do your strategy. Now that you have an opportunity to interact with WYLDE and you have heard about the opportunities they have, what you can uptake, apply. I think there's no harm in coming and apply. You may hear 25,000 is a lot. I'm not let me say a marketer for WYLDE, but I would say this: if you find a friend in WYLDE and they're willing to work with you, invest there. And they have already said they're committed to supporting small SMEs. Go there, talk to them, let them guide you, let them support you. Even if 25,000 sounds expensive, come and talk to them. Can we break this down? Can we do this? This is my situation. So let's not kill ourselves before we start. Come and have that business plan in place in your strategy.
Interesting. Michael, what are your thoughts?
Think about it this way. You walk into a showroom, a car showroom, and you want to buy a car. You like the color, you like the shape of the car, and you like the brand name of the car. Then you get the keys, you open and you get in. And what do you discover? You love everything about this car, but there's just one thing that seems to be missing. Then you discover that what is missing is that it has no dashboard. Now, to me, running a business without a strategy is driving a car without a dashboard. You don't know what speed you're driving. You don't know what's wrong with your car.
You know the fuel.
You don't know your fuel level. So it can stall at any point because the different signals come on the dashboard. So if you don't have a dashboard, you have no signal. I would challenge every entrepreneur, stop driving your car if it does not have a dashboard.
Wow.
Go get one with a dashboard.
Interesting. And before I call Mr. Kiria, just to give us the final remarks before we do a closing remark by Candy, there's a comment here by Colin Sodongo. He says that mine is not a question, but to say kudos to the panelists. They have shared great insights and demystified strategy. Great job. So tumefanya kazi yetu. Just tupigie makofi. All right, so that's a good job done, and I've really enjoyed this particular conversation. So, Mr. Kiria, maybe you can just give your final remarks before I get to invite Candy to close it.
Well, my final remarks have already been marked. Join us. Let's. One of the benefits of working with an external facilitator like WYLDE International. First, of course, I did mention about experience, and then it's varied experience. Next is you could probably, you're hiring talent, so to speak. You're hiring talent and experience for a short period of time. I don't think that's too expensive. But what is left behind is worth a lot more than you have spent. Then also remember that the idea of opportunity cost. You're practicing strategy anyway. Is it working for you? So the longer you practice a long strategy, the steeper the opportunity cost. So cut down those costs. Come and spend a day with us during our Scalarizer workshops. Let's just help you think through what you should do. Borrow our talent for a day or for 2 or 3 months. Then walk away. And let's see your business succeed and grow. The other emphasis about Scalarize is that we're not task oriented. We're not. We don't think in terms of we have done our job. Let's go. Our 3 months are done. We build relationships because after 3 months, other issues will crop up. You still need to borrow my talent. You still need to borrow for a short period of time. So. The emphasis is pretty much around. So let's work with you over the long term to extract as much value for your business as possible. Because you set up your business to generate value. So let's help us, let us help you rather think through the best way to generate that value, what pitfalls to avoid, and let us work with you, whether it's 3 months, 6 years, whatever. So thank you very much.
My goodness, that's the best way to summarize it. And probably the first strategy for you who are watching this, the best strategy you can actually have. Most of Boniface has asked so many questions, and most of you asking questions. The best strategy you've actually done just by watching this and just learning through this and learning about the Scalarizer program, which you can actually get to inquire about on the website. Yes, so and also the reports that are also being shared. You can also check it out on the WYLDE website. So WYLDE is WYLDE international.com. So it's been a pleasure having you guys. It's been very interesting conversation with my panelists. You can't have fun alone. I really have fun. We have joked, you have laughed, but I know you've enjoyed this particular conversation. My name is Ian Dennis, and my left is Michael, Mr. Kirinya, Grace, and Ken. Thanks so much for having shared these 2 hours with me. And just finally to have it, this particular conversation to a close, I'd like to invite Candy, who's part of the WYLDE International team, to give a vote of thanks and just, to close this particular conversation. So, asanteni sana. Candy.
Thank you so much, Ian. I would just like to say a big asante to everyone that joined us. We really are so grateful that you lent us your time to just get to hear from experience. I had so much fun hearing Grace's and Ken's and Mike's stories and from our very own Kirinya on how much it can take and it can cost to just have a strategy in place and to make life easy, not just for you, even for the business that you run. So thank you so much for being here with us. You can get the report. We'll upload the report after this. And for those of us that have joined us on this live discussion, we'll send over the report to you on your email as part of your thank you package. And you can also, if in case you missed bits and pieces of this, watch this live on Facebook. We are live there. And also just please get to follow us, sign up for Scalarizer. We have a sign up form at the bottom page of the Scalarizer page. So just head out there and get to see some testimonials as well from people that have taken this program as individuals and even as couples in business. It's really been an exciting experience for them. So thank you so much. Until next time, bye-bye.